So the UN is considering a resolution concerning President Trump's recent decision to move our embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. Upon hearing this, the Trump administration has decided to cancel the move. I kid. UN Ambassador Nikki Haley tweeted this. At the UN, we're always asked to do more and give more. So when we make a decision at the will of the American people about where to locate our embassy, we don't expect those we've helped to target us. On Thursday, there'll be a vote criticizing our choice. The U.S. will be taking names.
Love it.
Taking names, you gotta love that. It's politics meets The Godfather. I'm shaking. So Haley shows us what American foreign policy looks like with the spine. For so long, we've endured a relationship with the UN that verges on spousal abuse. No matter what we do, save lives, help those in need, try to pull violent countries out of their own deadly chaos, the UN then kicks us in the teeth. It's nice to see Haley hit first and hard to counter the coming petulant whine, and whine they will. After all, it's our embassy, not theirs, so shut up, you ungrateful brats. And I hope we do take names and make these double-parking dipwads pay. They're always double parking. So the good news for America, there isn't just a new sheriff in town, but a new contagious sentiment. One that mixes no BS bluntness with a disgust for what went on in the past. The new boss is definitely not the old boss, and now the UN must deal with it, not the other way around. Amen. Thanks, Greg. You're welcome. Hey, so this is a letter. I think we just upped. It's Haley's letter to delegations.
See that?
Yeah, very good. Shall I read the first sentence?
Sure, I'll take it.
Okay. As you consider your vote, this is my favorite sentence. As you consider your vote, I want you to know that the president and the United States takes this vote personally. This is like an action hero memo. Now it's personal.
I don't know. Yeah, I like to separate the politics from the personal, but she's making a strong case there.
Yes.
I saw somebody anonymously say from another country that her letter only served to unite them more.
Oh,
but the thing that's interesting is that as soon as President Trump made the announcement that he was going to seek to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, remember there was going to be this parade of horribles and all these terrible things were going to happen, and pretty much has fizzled. And even if they use it as an excuse to riot or to commit acts of terror and try to blame it on that.
Yeah.
But they've been doing that for
it's
years.
hard to distinguish one day of rage from all the other ones.
Well, it was cold weather that night, and so they didn't want to go out and protest that night. That's how heartfelt it was. Look, if you go to Israel, you actually, in Tel Aviv, you see the embassy, but then you go to Jerusalem, and we have a consulate, and then we have two people. So we already have a physical facility there. It's a reflection of reality, and it's actually been the U.S. policy for decades.
Yeah.
And the candidness in which President Trump is projecting this, and Nikki Haley is communicating this, is something that Americans have felt like for a long, long time. It is not a brand new position, and it is the right reflective position.
She reminds me of Jean Kirkpatrick. Remember her?
Yeah, she was great. You know, Juan, when Nikki Haley becomes the first female president in 2024, will you see this as the pivotal moment that pushed her to the forefront?
Oh, it could be.
Because right now,
because what we
Hillary's
know
now
is
home weeping.
the current president likes bully language that you might say is analogous to, you know, the mob and the Godfather, I think was what you said.
I was going to go with Goodfellas, then I went with the Godfather.
Yeah, but I must say it does resonate, that kind of language, you know, I'm taking names, I'm counting numbers. I mean, come
Dirty
on.
Harry, Magna
Look,
Force.
you know what you had here? A UN Security Council vote. 14 of 15 countries voted to say this is wrong. They didn't like it. And then you have Haley saying, hey, what about our friends, people we give money to? Britain, France, oh, they're voting for. What about Putin? Even Putin is saying this is nuts.
Even Putin.
And you know what? You said, oh, this is American policy. How come President Bush didn't do it? How come President Obama didn't do it? How come President Clinton didn't do it? How come the first President Bush didn't do it?
We can answer that, but we can't say it on television.
So basically, they voted against the United States, then they got in their car and double parked in front of their escort service.
Well, I just think the key here is, are we going to be able to, down the road, broker what no one has been able to do, but try to bring some peace to the middle. That's the goal here. It's not to just show off and do chest thumping.
The previous tone has not worked, Kimberly. I like this new tone.
I totally agree. I think that's enough already. And we know what? We're tired of getting ripped off. Whether it is that, you know, Paris Climate Change Accord, we got to get rid of that. Okay, now, in terms of these countries that are all always putting their tin cup out for the United States to give them money and billions in aid, I'm with the President of the United States and with Nikki Haley. Cut them off.
Can I?
Apparently we
up
do
the
that,
well
though,
of money.
for other diplomatic reasons to give them money. I mean,
Yeah.
part of it is stability in other regions.
Depending,
Do we have
but
do
at
we
the
have
same
time
time,
to
you can
show
do
that Trump
reductions in-
tape of him talking exactly what you're saying? Or are we out of time? Go. Let's do this. This is funny.
I like the message that Nikki sent yesterday at the United Nations for all of these nations that take our money and then they vote against us at the Security Council, or they vote against us potentially at the Assembly. They take hundreds of millions of dollars and even billions of dollars, and then they vote against us. Well, we're watching those votes. Let them vote against us. We'll save a lot. We don't care. But this isn't like it used to be, where they could vote against you and then you pay them hundreds of millions of dollars and nobody knows what they're doing.
Actually.
He's just
He
like
said it
your
nicer
uncle.
than I
He's
did.
like your uncle at Thanksgiving. We don't care. They don't
He's
do
a-
anything for us.
He's a businessman. The
Yes.
point is, there is no incentive for them to try to go with the
Yeah.
United States and show some solidarity and support for something that shouldn't be that difficult for them to wrap their head around. So instead, we keep rewarding bad behavior and complete disrespect with more money. Why do we do that?
Yeah.
Why do we do it?
You know what, though? Wasn't it just last weekend Nikki Haley was in trouble with Don Corleone when she said the women should be heard who have something to say
Hey,
about him? Oh, but now
that's-
Nikki's popular.
No,
with
that's the way it
Godfather.
works. It runs hot and cold. That's the beauty of the most transparent administration in history. You know when people are in trouble and when people do well. Why would you complain about that? You know what? I'm tired of this segment.
The Council is now ready to proceed to the vote on the draft resolution before it. I shall put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favour of the draft resolution contained in document S/2017/1060 please raise their hand? Thank you. Will those against? Thank you. No abstentions. The result of the voting is as follows: 14 votes in favour, 1 vote against. The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the Council. I now give the floor to the members of the Council who wish to make the statement after the vote. I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have been the proud representative of the United States at the United Nations for nearly a year now. This is the first time I have exercised the American right to veto a resolution in the Security Council. The exercise of the veto is not something the United States does often. We have not done it in more than 6 years. We do it with no joy, but we do it with no reluctance. The fact that this veto is being done in defense of American sovereignty and in defense of America's role in the Middle East peace process is not a source of embarrassment for us. It should be an embarrassment to the remainder of the Security Council. As I pointed out when we discussed this topic 10 days ago, I will once again note the features of the President's announcement on Jerusalem that are most relevant here. The President took great care not to prejudge final status negotiations in any way, including the specific boundaries of Israeli sovereignty in Jerusalem. That remains a subject to be negotiated only by the parties. The position is fully in line with the previous Security Council resolutions. The President was also careful to state that we support the status quo regarding Jerusalem's holy sites, and we support a two-state solution if that's what the parties agree to. Again, these positions are fully consistent with the previous Security Council resolutions. It is highly regrettable that some are trying to distort the President's position to serve their own agendas. What is troublesome to some people is not that the United States has harmed the peace process. We have, in fact, done no such thing. Rather, what is troublesome to some people is that the United States had the courage and honesty to recognize a fundamental reality. Jerusalem has been the political, cultural, and spiritual homeland of the Jewish people for thousands of years. They have had no other capital city. but the United States' recognition of the obvious, that Jerusalem is the capital and seat of the modern Israeli government, is too much for some. First, some have threatened violence on the street, as if violence would somehow improve the prospects of peace. Now today, buried in diplomatic jargon, some presume to tell America where to put our embassy. The United States has a sovereign right to determine where and whether we establish an embassy. I suspect very few member states would welcome Security Council pronouncements about their sovereign decisions, and I think of some who should fear it. It's worth noting that this is not a new American position. Back in 1980, when Jimmy Carter was the American president, the Security Council voted on Resolution 478, which called upon diplomatic missions to relocate from Jerusalem. The United States did not support Resolution 478. In his remarks, then Secretary of State Ed Muskie said the following, quote, "The draft resolution before us today is illustrative of a preoccupation which has produced this series of unbalanced and unrealistic texts on Middle East issues." Specifically regarding the provision on diplomatic missions in Jerusalem, Secretary Muskie said this, quote, "In our judgment, this provision is not binding. It is without force, and we reject it as a disruptive attempt to dictate to other nations. It does nothing to promote a resolution of the difficult problems facing Israel and its neighbors. It does nothing to advance the cause of peace." That was in 1980. It is equally true today. The United States will not be told by any country where we can put our embassy. Buried even deeper in the jargon of this resolution is the accusation that the United States is setting back the prospects of peace in the Middle East. That is a scandalous charge. Those who are making it should consider that it only harms the very Palestinian people they claim to speak for. What does it gain the Palestinian people for their leaders to throw up roadblocks to negotiations? A peace process that is damaged by the simple recognition that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel is not a peace process. It is a justification for an endless stalemate. What does it gain the Palestinian people for some of their leaders to accuse the United States of being hostile to the cause of peace? It gains them nothing, but it risks costing them a great deal. The United States has done more than any other country to assist the Palestinian people, by far. Since 1994, we have given over $5 billion to the Palestinians in bilateral economic assistance, security assistance, and humanitarian assistance. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees operates schools and medical facilities throughout the region. It is funded almost entirely by voluntary contributions. Last year, the United States voluntarily funded almost 30% of UNRWA's budget. That's more than the next two largest donors combined. And it's vastly more than some of the members of this council that have considerable financial resources of their own. I'll be blunt. When the American people see a group of countries whose total contributions to the Palestinian people is less than 1% of UNRWA's budget, when they see these countries accuse the United States of being insufficiently committed to peace, the American people lose their patience. I have been to the Palestinian refugee camps the United States supports with their contributions. I have met with men, women, and children there. I have advocated on their behalf. I can tell you that their leaders do them no favors by being more open to abandoning peace negotiations than to doing the hard work of seeing them to completion. The United States has never been more committed to peace in the Middle East. We were committed to it before the President announced our recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and we're committed to it today. What we witnessed here today in the Security Council is an insult. It won't be forgotten. It's one more example of the United Nations doing more harm than good in addressing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Today, for the simple act of deciding where to put our embassy, the United States was forced to defend its sovereignty. The record will reflect that we did so proudly. Today, for acknowledging a basic truth about the capital city of Israel, we are accused of harming peace. The record will reflect that we reject that outrageous claim. For these reasons, and with the best interests of both the Israeli and the Palestinian people firmly in mind, the United States votes no on this resolution. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States of America.